I'm Jacqueline Bell. Thank you once again for joining me on another episode of the Divorcee Diaries. Now, as you can see, I switched up my ink a little bit just to keep things interesting. So now you can see a little bit of my desk area, my fantastic vision board. If you haven't already checked out my vision board, parts 1 and 2 episodes, do check them out because it has everything that I want to do and accomplish within this year and a little bit beyond. So without further ado, let's get into it. Oh, the things people say. I did want to say the people say, but it's not shit. I want to be very cognizant of other people that have not been divorced before. So the 3 things that were a bit hurtful and made me feel a little bit sad, especially early on in my divorce, I'll highlight today, and then also share some suggestions that I have for folks that might not know how to respond to a divorcee, especially in the very beginning of that divorce journey. So I'll share 3 common things that people have told me to try to make me feel better. And I get it. Thank you for trying, family and friends, to try to help me feel better. But I'm just, excuse me, shook a little bit. Well, I'm just going to give some insight around why it was a bit hurtful.
Stop it. Get some help.
So the first thing I would hear when people would respond to and try to console me during my divorce was, well, at least you don't have kids. Yes, very true. And I understand, and I did back then too, on a practical level, that yes, at least I don't have kids. It would make things a lot more complicated, and being the child of divorced parents, I understand that wholeheartedly. So yes, I do not disagree. Well, okay, I will say, back then, in the very beginning, I will say it did hurt a little bit. Because I did want kids, you know. Actually, I was hoping that around this age I would already have kids with my then partner. I can, you know, start expanding my family, my life. So I was actually really sad when people would say that, because my dream was already dead, right? My dream was already gone. And to rub a wound in that and to say, well, at least you don't have any kids. I'm like, well, I wish, I remember telling someone, like, I wish I had at least that when I got divorced, because at least I can say that I have something to take away. But I no longer was a wife. I no longer had a husband. I no longer had a house. So I was feeling real empty, y'all. So I was feeling really sad about that. Fast forward to only actually a few months after that, when my healing journey came and everything, I had a lot more enlightenment. And yes, very glad that I do not have kids. But in the beginning, I would say, especially for some of the divorcee, for some of you that might divorce, or maybe those of you that have friends or family of divorcees, perhaps steering away from that comment if they are childless or if they don't have children from that marriage. Steer away from that comment. There are other comments you can make. All right, the second comment I would hear in response to my divorce, well, you're young, you'll be okay.
Y'all gonna make me lose my mind. Up in here, up.
I know this. Again, I know this. Well, okay, actually, I didn't know that back then. I didn't feel young, right? Because back then I was 20, when I was getting divorced, I was 29, just about to turn, or a few months away from turning 30. So I didn't feel that young. And to think about the amount of years I spent with my ex-spouse, I spent 5.5 years with that person, nearly 20% of my life, right? And I invested so much time. For me, that was significant. Again, that's valid, right? It was just like, I don't know if I'm that young, because if I want to be with a partner and spend, you know, years with them, growing and experiencing life and going out to travel together and things like that, well, then I want to have those years before settling down and maybe having kids and things like that. And to think about another 5.5 years, I'd be 35, you know? And I'm like, that's older childbearing age if I want to have kids. So there's a lot in that comment that I don't think a lot of people realize, because I don't think they knew how long we were together. And I don't think they knew our plans at the time to have kids and see the rest of my future and whatnot. That was a little bit hurtful. So just be cautious about that. So you can definitely help them get to that place, whoever this divorcee friend or family member is. But I think right in the beginning, maybe steering away from that. Because in some cases, people that shared that with me, I felt it was very dismissive. And the third comment that I got when people found out that I was getting divorced was, well, that didn't last very long.
Okay.
And that was hurtful because yes, my marriage compared to others, I'm sure, especially those in my family, did not last very long. It lasted about 2.5 years altogether. But you know, those were 5.5 years with this person, 2.5 years being married that really felt heartbreaking because of the dream that was diminished, the dream that was gone, and having to be acquainted with who I am as a single person in my 30s and really find myself again, right? Having to be accustomed to living by myself, having to be accustomed to being able to navigate life without a particular identity that was one of my most salient identities, if you will. So to say that it didn't last very long, again, diminished something within me. It almost felt as if I was being looked down upon. So I didn't like that. So don't say that. Whether or not it lasted a day or like 10 years or what, well, it's a longer time, but a day or 2.5 years, you know, don't say those things to people because time is one thing, right? But your heart, that person's heart was in, that person had to go through something that probably felt a lot longer than 2.5 years. And if you're only looking at a marriage as opposed to the relationship, then sure. But if you're looking at a relationship in total, the marriage is just, you know, the legal piece, then it is very hurtful. So please stray away from saying that. So for all of you out there that are navigating trying to support a family or friend, or if you yourself are divorced or going through a divorce and you want to provide some guidance, here are some of my recommendations for how to approach someone who is going through a divorce, especially in their early stages. So the first recommendation is listen. Most of the time, the divorcee is going through something like this alone or without sharing too much, or at least for me, I didn't share too much with anyone. It's very private for me, although I'm a very extroverted and outgoing person. I like to say my life is an open book. There are some things that are happening in the moment that are very hard to talk about. So anyone that was able to listen when I need them to listen, just to share how I was feeling, to vent how I was hurting, was really, really helpful. Because I didn't necessarily want to hear, like, this is what you should do, this is what you should do, especially not from someone that is not a divorcee. Okay, like, I don't understand how you can help me to be, not to be cruel, but I wouldn't tell someone, you know, how to be a lawyer if I don't know how to be a lawyer, right? So just refrain from the advice that's asked of you, and just take the time to really listen to the person in their pain as they're healing. So that's number one. Number two is ask what you can do. Like I said before, if you just ask them, like, you know, what is it that I can do for you? That's amazing. I think that will really help the recipient of that, the divorcee, be able, or even the person that's, you know, going through a bad breakup, they can really start asking themselves, like, what is it that I need? And when someone asked me that, I was like, that is a great question. I think I just need to talk to someone right now. And I need, I need to be around people. I knew that for sure for myself. Like, I need to be around people. Can you go out to happy hour with me? Because I really don't want to be myself. Or can you help me out with getting my house sold, you know, whatever way I need help. So being able to ask them those reflective questions are really helpful. The third recommendation I would say is provide an affirmation. That's gonna help them feel really good because, as I mentioned before, you are in a low place. Well, the divorcee is in a low place, usually. And any affirmation you could provide them, I think would be really helpful. So any encouragement. So for example, I really appreciate when people are saying, you're such a strong person, you know, or you're looking amazing today. Even if I wasn't looking amazing, because the days that I looked amazing are the days where I really tried to doll myself up because I felt really, really sad inside. So, but I still appreciate that because I was trying to cover up, I was trying to make myself feel better on the outside so that I can hopefully feel better in myself inside. And those affirmations did help because I thought that I was now unworthy or not beautiful, not loved. I thought all of these negative things, y'all. Luckily it didn't last very long, but all of these things when you're at your low and you're feeling rejected or failed or like a failure, or that you're feeling embarrassed, just to let those individuals know, now that you know what we're feeling, you feel a lot of embarrassment, a lot of shame, a lot of unworthiness. Just give them affirmations to help them feel better, to help them build their confidence and really get back to who they used to be. And the fourth recommendation I have for all of you is to check in. Check in from time to time, or check in often, whatever works, because I think that it's really helpful to let that person know that they're being thought about, that they have a support system, because some days are better than others, right? Some days I remember in the early stages of my divorce, I was like, oh, I'm good. I don't need any affirmations or any support. I'm really good all by myself, doing my own thing. And then some days I was like, this day is really hard. Today is hard. Today is hard. How the heck do I get through today? And those individuals that would call me or text me and just say, hey, how are you doing? It meant so much. It meant the world to me. And I don't think they knew that, but it did. And there's a point when people stop checking in on you after like a month or two, but you're still healing, right? I would say personally, as someone who was going through that, if you could check in, maybe every so often, maybe for a few months, maybe 3 or 4, if you can do that, just to check in, just like send a text message, send a call, stop by. That would do so much good for that divorcee, or at least it did for me. It helped me a lot. So those are my recommendations. And I just want to say thank you all for watching another episode of Divorcee Diaries. I hope that this was helpful for all of you, specifically friends and family of divorcees. Hopefully this will help provide some light and some guidance in navigating what to say to someone who is divorced, and what not to say, right? What to be more mindful of. Again, thank you all so much, and I look forward to seeing you all again. Have a great one. Bye-bye.